When it comes to music, beauty is in the earballs of the beholder. True as that may be, we can determine which songs are actually good and which are not. Take the song playing in the background, for example. You may have dismissed it as filler or elevator music, which I absolutely would not blame you for doing, but it's actually a piano adaptation of the soundtrack for Interstellar created by Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer is a famous film score composer and producer that has worked on prestigious films and series like Shrek, Shrek 2, Shrek 3, Tommy Wiseau's The Room, and The Fairly OddParents. He began producing scores for films in the 1930s with the advent of sound in films. Although he originally started working out of his garage with partner and lover Steve Wozniak under their folk rock duo Cotton Eye Joe, he has now won multiple Oscars for Best Supporting Actor. Even though Hans Zimmer has an ear for tears, that does not mean that piano adaptations of some of his most famous work played on Synthesia are any good. In fact, they're terrible. They're so downright dreadful that when my first wife could not relinquish the point that it was terrible, I divorced him and married his twin brother. Now that you've heard the uninspired and boring work of a 14-year-old on MacBook, let's examine some other actual awe-inspiring pieces produced and composed by people who dedicated their entire lives to some kind of weird guitar in a box. A true masterpiece, written by a man with an IQ and penis unrivaled by any human being, present, past, or future. Debussy. This is probably his most widely recognized song, Clair de Lune. Debussy wrote this song after his only daughter and wife, Claire, left him for an opium addict in the late 17th century. Fueled by depression, an opium addiction of his own, and pure feels, Debussy spilled his heart out into the papyrus. This is a classic example of feels versus reals. We all know facts don't care about your feelings, and that's why you feel nothing while listening to Zimmer's Interstellar. In stark contrast, I can barely make it through 2/3 of Clair de Lune without burying the muzzle of a revolver deep into my mouth, but in a good way. It truly was his magnum opium.